They thought he was just a curious kid with a laptop. What they didn't know was that he was about to walk straight through the digital doors of the CIA, not with guns, not with power, just code, curiosity, and a fire no one saw coming. He wasn't born in privilege. He was born in Baghdad into a world torn by conflict. But long before anyone could label him a threat or a prodigy, a simple gift from his father set the world spinning off its axis. A second-hand laptop. That's how the legend of Mustafa began. When most 7-year-olds were struggling with their homework, Mustafa was already sinking deep into the infinite world of ones and zeros. The internet wasn't what it is today, no TikTok, no crypto hype, just dial-up chaos in dusty chat rooms. But for a child who had just relocated with his family to the gray streets of London, it was like discovering an alien planet with no gravity, no borders, and no rules. His fascination wasn't with games or cartoons. No, Mustafa wanted to understand. What made a website tick? How did a simple web page respond to a click? Why did some things break and others didn't? And one evening, while trying to solve a math assignment and needing a calculator, Mustafa searched online. That's when it happened. He found a calculator website that looked innocent enough. But when he poked around, he noticed something strange. The site had a tiny crack and overlooked vulnerability. Mustafa entered a piece of code, almost like a child pushing buttons in an elevator just to see what would happen. And suddenly he wasn't using the calculator. He was inside it. He was inside the website. At 8 years old, Mustafa had performed his first hack. And the scariest part? It was too easy. That moment lit something up inside him, something far beyond simple curiosity. It was as if he had found a secret lever hidden behind the world's curtains. With it, he could move things, change things, break things, and nobody even knew he was there. He didn't stop there. The next experiment? His own school's server. Their firewall might as well have been a paper door. Mustafa slipped in like mist through cracks, uncovering teachers' salaries, students' exam results, admin emails, all at the age of 8. He wasn't trying to destroy anything. He was just exploring. But like most kids, he couldn't keep his mouth shut. A whispered boast turned into a classroom-wide rumor. And suddenly the school knew. He was marched into the principal's office like a criminal. Teachers stared at him in disbelief. He confessed. Not out of fear, but because he didn't see what he did as wrong. He saw it as ... discovery. The school didn't expel him. They didn't call the police. They simply gave him a warning and a phone call home to his father. But the fire was already burning too bright. From that point on, Mustafa dove headfirst into the underworld of the internet, the digital catacombs where hackers gathered. Not criminals, not yet. Just restless minds connected across borders, languages, and governments. They gathered in secret forums, chat rooms, and code-sharing sites, trading knowledge like currency. Some hacked for justice, some for fun, others for revenge. Mustafa? He just wanted to go deeper. By the age of 13, he wasn't a kid anymore, not in that world. He had become a respected voice in these communities, and soon he found himself brushing against a name the world feared, misunderstood, and often demonized: Anonymous. This wasn't some centralized team. There were no leaders, no headquarters, no salaries. Anonymous was a movement raw, headless, and global. If a government censored the internet or silenced protesters, Anonymous would strike. If corporations supported injustice, they would bring them down digitally. And Mustafa, still barely in his teens, was ready to play. One of his first major missions, hitting the giants, MasterCard and Visa. The year was 2010. These companies had blocked donations to WikiLeaks after it exposed secrets governments wanted buried. And so Anonymous responded. Mustafa helped bring their websites to their knees. Traffic crashed. Customers fumed. The corporations scrambled. It was a statement. You don't control the truth. But something else happened, too. Amidst these digital riots, Mustafa was forming friendships bonds. Teenagers and young adults scattered across the world started finding each other. Some were rebels, some idealists, others just brilliant minds with too much time and too little structure. They wanted to do something different, something their own. So they broke off. They formed their own group, a name that would soon send ripples through governments, media houses, and private corporations. LOLSEC. It wasn't about politics, not entirely. LOLSEC stood for chaos. Their motto, we laugh at your security, and they meant it. They weren't just hackers, they were trolls with superpowers. One day they might reroute a customer service line to the FBI as a prank. Another day they'd breach a music show's registration database and leak thousands of applicant profiles. They even claimed Tupac and Biggie were alive in New Zealand, posting it as news on a hacked website. But underneath the jokes there was something dangerous brewing. They were getting good. Too good. And their targets were getting bigger. Sony was one of them. After Sony sued a young hacker for breaching the PlayStation 3, the entire hacker community rallied. LOLSEC, led in part by Mustafa, launched wave after wave of attacks. 7 breaches. 1 million users' data leaked. Sony bled publicly. LOLSEC became famous. Too famous. Suddenly, other hackers were sending them vulnerabilities, asking them to publish in their name. Their Twitter account exploded. News channels were scrambling to explain who these kids were. But with fame came heat. And the U.S. government? They were watching, especially after LOLSEC made the mistake of crossing a certain line. They hacked a cybersecurity firm, H. Berry, that was contracted directly with the FBI. The company's CEO had publicly bragged at a tech conference that they would soon unmask anonymous members. He said it with pride. He might as well have put a bullseye on his back. Mustafa and his crew went after him with surgical precision. And the irony? They didn't need to brute force anything. The CEO had used the same password for everything. Social media, corporate accounts, even PayPal. Within hours, LOLSEC had access to his entire digital life. They wiped his iPad, took over his email, leaked 70,000 sensitive internal messages to the public. The scandal was nuclear. This was a man who boasted about cybersecurity exposed by teenagers. The fallout was devastating. He resigned. He moved homes. And suddenly, the U.S. wasn't laughing anymore. They were furious. And they were coming. What happened next would turn the group upside down. Not through brute force, not through code, but betrayal. Now, LOLSEC had just done the unthinkable. They'd embarrassed a company that literally specialized in digital defense. They cracked open its CEO like a tin can, laid bare his secrets, and walked away with the internet applauding. But while the world laughed, the FBI made a quiet decision. They wouldn't strike back with firepower. They'd strike back with patience. Lulzsec thought they were invisible. They used aliases, virtual private networks, encrypted servers. Even among themselves, they never shared real names, locations, or faces. But every empire falls, and this one would start crumbling from the inside. Mustafa never saw it coming, because when the betrayal hit, it didn't come from an enemy. It came from a brother. His name was Hector Xavier Monsegur, but online he was Sabu, one of the founding members of Lulzsec, a hacker revered in underground forums. Tactical, charming, brilliant, the oldest in the group by a decade. If Mustafa was the heart of Lulzsec, Hector was the brain, or so everyone believed. What they didn't know was that Hector was already gone. The FBI had knocked on his door, and everything changed. It happened after Lulzsec targeted Infragard, an organization closely tied to the FBI. That hack went too far. The Bureau launched a full-scale investigation, and Hector Sloppy just once left a digital fingerprint. They traced it, raided his apartment, and gave him a choice: rot in prison for decades or flip. And Hector flipped. At first, he hesitated, but he wasn't just thinking of himself. He was thinking of two little girls, his brother's daughters, who called him Dad because their real father had vanished. He'd been raising them since their mother died. The FBI knew this, and they used it. "Help us," they said, "or we'll call child services." In that moment, Hector didn't just betray Lulzsec. He betrayed himself. He said yes. From that day on, every message Lulzsec sent passed through FBI servers. They installed spyware on Hector's laptop. His keystrokes were monitored, his screen recorded. When Mustafa and the others typed out plans, cracked jokes, or scheduled their next attack, they were unknowingly confessing everything. But it wasn't easy for Hector. He had to pretend nothing changed. He still laughed with them, still plotted, still joined operations. Even when Lulzsec decided to do something historic, take down the CIA's official website, Hector was in the room. He cheered them on. He typed Tango down right alongside them, and the FBI let it happen, because now they had eyes inside. The CIA site crashed. The world gasped. But behind the scenes, the FBI was closing in, not with sirens, with silence. They began collecting breadcrumbs, tiny personal details, offhand remarks, time zones, language quirks, accents heard over voice chats. They didn't need names, they needed habits. And Mustafa, even cautious as he was still human. He'd built a digital fortress, but all it took was a whisper in the wrong direction, a piece here, a fragment there. Slowly the puzzle formed, and then they came for him. It was early morning in London. Mustafa's brother answered the door. Police, warrants, guns. Mustafa didn't panic. He didn't scream. He just calmly shut his laptop. Even though he never kept anything incriminating on it, old habits die hard. The authorities stormed in, confiscated everything: hard drives, cables, flash drives. They arrested him in front of his stunned parents. They knew he loved computers, sure, but hacking the CIA, that was a different beast entirely. At the station, Mustafa sat alone, 16 years old. No criminal record, but facing the weight of the U.S. government. Still, he wasn't rattled. When they tried to question him, he asked for a lawyer. When they presented 24 separate charges, including conspiracy, cyber intrusion, and unauthorized access, he answered every single one with 2 words: no comment. It drove them mad. They threatened him with extradition. They said he could be shipped off to America, locked away for decades. But Mustafa knew the law. He was a minor, and under British law, they couldn't just hand him over. After 24 hours, they released him on bail, but they made sure his life would never be the same. 3 of his low-sec friends were arrested that same week. And Hector? He watched it all happen from behind a bureau-issued laptop. Mustafa later learned the truth. Hector had been wired the entire time. Every conversation they thought was private wasn't. Every plan they whispered was transcribed. But what hurt the most wasn't the sting of the betrayal. It was the truth behind it. Hector claimed he never directly gave up their names, that he didn't know who they really were, that he only recorded conversations. But Mustafa didn't buy it, because when you talk to someone for hours every day, you slip. You mention a city, a habit, a slang term. You drop digital fingerprints even without typing. It wasn't one clue. It was 1,000 tiny ones. And the FBI knew how to listen. What broke Mustafa most was realizing they had considered Hector family. This wasn't a business partner or an online buddy. This was someone who knew their fears, their dreams, who shared late-night chats and celebrated every successful hack like a championship win. And yet, he watched them burn. In court, Mustafa finally met some of his teammates face to face. It was surreal. People he'd known for years, suddenly in real life. One member who claimed online to be a teenage girl turned out to be a 26-year-old ex-soldier. His excuse? I was protecting myself. The lie gave me a buffer, but no amount of caution saved them. Mustafa, being the youngest, got the lightest sentence, a suspended 2-year prison term, 320 hours of community service, and the harshest punishment of all for a mind like his, a 2-year ban from the internet. He couldn't use any device that connected online. He had to report every computer purchase, couldn't delete browser history, couldn't encrypt anything, couldn't even touch code. For 5 years, he lived under surveillance. For 5 years, he watched the world evolve without him. Facebook grew into Meta. Bitcoin exploded. Anonymous faded and rose again, and Mustafa stayed silent. But silence isn't the same as defeat, because deep beneath that stillness, something was waiting, although the world thought it had silenced him. 2 years banned from the internet. 5 years under digital surveillance. They expected the boy who once laughed at the CIA to fade into the noise, just another broken prodigy swallowed by the system. But Mustafa wasn't finished. He was evolving. Because when you strip a genius of his tools, you don't kill his mind. You sharpen it. While others were binging Netflix and swiping through apps, Mustafa was reading. Coding offline, rebuilding, quietly, strategically. His punishment was isolation, but it became meditation. And when the restrictions lifted, Mustafa didn't run back to hacking. He stepped into something far more dangerous. He stepped into blockchain. To some, it's just tech jargon. Crypto wallets, DeFi protocols, NFTs. But to Mustafa, it was the key. Not just to freedom, to redemption. Here was a space no government fully understood, no system fully controlled, and no firewall could lock him out of. Decentralized, anonymous, Transparent, everything hacking had taught him every lesson. Every instinct fit perfectly into this world. He built tools, smart contracts that couldn't be censored, systems that protected whistleblowers, encrypted platforms that gave power back to the people. No more lulls, no more trolling. This time, he wasn't tearing down, he was building. And yet, the past refused to die. His name was whispered in crypto forums like a ghost. That's the kid who hacked the CIA, the one who exposed the FBI's contractor. He's back, but with fame comes risk. One night, while attending a closed-door blockchain conference in Dubai, Mustafa noticed something strange. Two men, suits, not tech brothers, not devs, watching, not participating. Later that night, a hotel server slipped him a note under his door. No envelope, no signature, just two sentences. We know who you are. We remember. And for the first time in years, Mustafa felt it again, the chill of being hunted. But this time he didn't run. He dug in, because the rules had changed. This wasn't a scared teenager anymore. This was a man who had faced giants, survived betrayal, and weaponized his pain into purpose. So he made a decision. He would finish what he started, not with hacks, with exposure. You see, during his time offline, Mustafa wasn't just learning code. He was also piecing together something darker: connections between tech corporations and government agencies, backroom deals, surveillance programs hidden behind everyday apps. He had seen it all: emails, leaks, threads no one dared follow, and he followed them, one by one. What he uncovered was horrifying. Private tech companies selling user data to law enforcement without warrants. Intelligence agencies funding apps that were supposedly encrypted. Governments working hand in hand with social platforms to manipulate public sentiment. And then, the final piece dropped. He found internal memos from a former cybersecurity firm, HBGA's successor. It outlined a covert program called Shadowweave, backdoor pipeline from children's learning apps straight into national surveillance databases. Not criminals, kids. And the architect behind it? Hector Sabu, the man who once claimed he had flipped to protect his family, had now become the exact thing they all once fought against. He had joined the machine. Mustafa didn't hesitate. He opened his laptop, activated a cold wallet, and dropped the files onto a blockchain-based, decentralized web server, permanent, public, and untraceable. Within hours, the files were viral. Encrypted backups spread across hundreds of mirrors. Activists, journalists, watchdogs, everyone was buzzing. Shadowweave was real, and now the whole world knew. Governments scrambled. Statements were released. Investigations launched. Hector went silent. And Mustafa? He disappeared again. No tweets, no blogs, no trace, just one last cryptic post. You turned the traitor into your hero. Now the villain rewrites the rules. I'm not coming for you. I already did. And attached was a photo, an old, cracked calculator, the same type from his very first hack. Full circle. The boy they underestimated had grown into a force they couldn't control, not because he wanted revenge, but because the only thing more dangerous than a hacker with a grudge is a builder with a purpose. And the world, it just realized it's no longer in control of the code. Mustafa rewrote it,